All right. So can we go ahead and just start arguing about this? Well, not like arguing with each other. It's more about like, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to argue with you. I'm just like, I should just say that we're just going to go ahead and argue with the people that think that this stuff actually matters. I almost cursed too to start off the show. All right, what's going on, y'all? Chris Allen, Adam Wilde, Dynasty League Football Mailbag. What's going on? It is, well, it's not officially the off season, right? We still have at least we still got a solid week, but I mean, plenty of stuff that's going on right now regarding news for your Dynasty rosters. I mean, we've had the Senior Bowl this past week. I've got my man Troy King out there posting memes and photoshops of him down at the Senior Bowl. We've got, what else we got? We got coaching changes going on. We've got quarterbacks on the move. I mean, there's a ton of news that's going to be dropping over the next few weeks that will be pertinent to how we manage our rosters for the 2021 season. And that's just for the players that are currently in the league, right? But the topic of conversation that Adam and I were having right before we started hitting record was about this conversation regarding DeVonta Smith. Mm-hmm. Now, where you have him ranked personally, I'm not going to argue with you about it. I mean, unless you have them just completely down at the bottom of your list. Right. Or whatever. I mean, if you got him at your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, okay, fine. Wide receiver 3, maybe it's debatable. And
he's 160 scratched off my board.
Yeah, I mean, so this whole weight thing, it just, for me, like, didn't we just do this like 2 seasons ago with Marquise Brown?
Yeah.
Where just having a singular value taken at one point in time, where we already knew when Hollywood was coming into the league, he was a small dude, and there was already concern about how his talent was going to translate into the pros. And I mean, look at him now. I mean, slow start, but whatever. At least for the 2020 season, but whatever. But I mean, there was that conversation that was had around how small of a player and how his frame would translate to the professionals. And now we're seeing the same thing happen with DeVonta Smith. And to me, it's just, I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, anybody that's read my work, they understand that I'm very data driven when it comes to trying to understand strategy, when it's trying to understand roster construction, player profiles, or whatever. But this stuff, man, after we just did this 2 seasons ago, how are we going to sit here and try and knock a player for a value that's taken on one specific day? Because like I told you, Adam, I mean, if I had to weigh myself today, and I'm not going to tell you how much I weigh right now, because I mean, that's none of y'all's business. But if I was going to say that today is going to be my weight for the entire year, I mean, you call me a liar. I mean, your weight is going to fluctuate throughout the entire year, and we are just normal people. How is that supposed to work how are we supposed to apply that same, or how can we not apply that same logic to a professional athlete? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I can play devil's advocate a little. I mean, you can look at historical data on different sizes and speeds, and I'm not going to say the combine's useless, but I'll kind of say the combine's useless. The combine is useful because the NFL thinks it's useful. So the NFL thinks weight matters, so I guess it does kind of matter for us drafting. But I think the conversation we're having is just like, so we said if we were his agent, we would tell him never, ever step on a scale, ever. Pretend you're allergic to scales. And if a team asks you how much you weigh, tell them how many yards you had in the first half of the national championship game. That's it. If weight comes up, tell them how many yards you had and how many touchdowns you had in one half of the national championship game. And that's all they need to know. So, I mean, people are going to tear this apart. The non-point scoring season just started. It's all we're going to hear about. Like I was telling you, Chris, I don't think that these 2 wide receivers, Jamar Chase and DeVonta Smith, are going to stick as the top 2 players off the board in 1 QB leagues. They're probably not. It never happens. N'Keal Harry was the 101 all the way up until drafts, and then people were like, nah, I'll take Josh Jacobs. So it's like you just can't, and I'm with everybody on that. It's really hard to pull the trigger on drafting a wide receiver of a running back that you think is going to play right away. So it's probably going to end up being something like Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and then DeVonta Smith, and then Jamar Chase, or I prefer Jamar Chase, but it's up in the air right now. But
yeah,
DeVonta Smith is probably still going to be a very, very highly drafted player, even though he weighs so little. So do we really have to waste the whole non-point scoring season talking about how small he is when he's still probably going to be a top 15 pick? I mean, Henry Ruggs didn't have a very good profile at all, and then he was the first wide receiver drafted because he was so fast. So they're going to find traits that they love in DeVonta Smith, and he's going to go really early, and then we're going to realize it was pointless to talk about his weight all offseason because he's a top 15 wide receiver, and you have to take him early.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about his weight, or the weight will be the topic of conversation for the next few weeks, or at least another month. And then the draft is going to roll around. Watch him land in just a great situation in terms of like both draft capital and team situation. And then what? And then watch the conversation just immediately shift. I mean, the moment he gets drafted to a great team in, like, let's say the first round, early second round, watch how quickly that whole conversation about his weight just completely goes away.
Yep.
And then it's just like DeVonta Smith season, wide receiver one season. I mean, just bang the table for DeVonta Smith season. I mean, that's what it's all going to be about. And I'm just going to kick back and laugh.
Yeah, so I just think that it's going to be a wasted energy. Like, let's put our energy somewhere else, because I can't suffer through another season of talking about how small Marquise Brown was, like you said, and then how another season of how DK couldn't run routes, which I remember the episode that we did. I think we did it with Jake Anderson, and we both said we like DK, but I acknowledged I didn't think he was a great route runner, but I said he went to the perfect situation to not be a great route runner. Russ is scramble for 7 seconds, and then he's going to chuck it. Nobody can stay with DK Metcalf for 7 seconds. Fortunately, because I have him in a few leagues, I ate my words, because he has actually been a pretty good route runner for being an absolute monster. So it's just these narratives that I think we waste our time on, and we could be better dynasty owners if we spend a little less time on things like that. There are other things that are a little more indicative. I mean, we've got breakout ages. Dominator score is a pretty good one, honestly.
Breakout age, dominator score, yards per team target, and then also our yards per team production, I think, is what the metric is called. But either way, I mean, there are a number of other metrics that I think that are a bit more, I guess, significant when trying to evaluate a wide receiver prospect. And I mean, pretty much any of the big names in the prospecting industry that build some of these models that will help point us in the direction of wide receivers, I think a lot of them admit that, like, while BMI or weight might be a factor in their model, it is not a significant factor. I think JJ Zachariason was just talking about this earlier this week. Folks like Anthony Amico, Peter Howard, I mean, they've also put together a number of models that also use that as an input, but again, not a significant input. So I think it comes down to, we wind up, once we get into the extremes, and I would say that 160 pounds is probably the extreme, like for extreme value for a receiver. That's when we start to double count that negative against them. We already knew. I mean, we've known. It's not like this is a new thing for DeVonta Smith. Like,
right. I mean,
so why now this has to be a thing?
Life. So that's another thing that always makes me chuckle about the weight. He's been good his whole life, and the weight hasn't mattered, but the weight's going to matter now. You are stepping to the league, right? So I get it. But and another kind of devil's advocate is, the point I would make is that, well, he's going to step into an NFL locker room, NFL weight room. They're not going to let him be small. But he was at Alabama, you know what I mean? Like, that's as close as you can get to an NFL weight room. So I don't know if I can necessarily say he's going to put on too much more weight, but you'd have to, I mean, those NFL franchises act like they own the player's body, and in a way they kind of do. So they're going to tell him how much he's going to play at. And I've watched a little bit about how they try to put players, specifically rookies, try to put them on regimens to get them to a specific playing weight. They're not going to try to get him to 205 pounds in year one, but he might put on 5-10 pounds and then make sure he can maintain that speed. So maybe it's a couple of years before he's playing at a size, but I do think he's going to get to a size where we're going to forget that we talked about, because he's 6'1". He's not short.
Right.
So he's going to get to a size where we're like, why didn't I take him? Why did I listen to somebody that told me not to take him because he was too small?
Right.
So, all right, I guess we have a contractual obligation to get.
Yeah, let's stop with that for the time being, and let's fade that noise, as a lot of folks tend to say, and dig into some of the questions for this evening. What we got?
Yeah, so I'll ask this one. So this came to me in a DM from somebody I know from school, actually. BFE_do_work asked, he's got the 102, 104, 106, and the 111 in SuperFlex. He plans on taking Kyle Pitts at the 106. I think that's fine. I forgot to ask him if it's tight end premium. Either way, I guess it's fine. I'll talk a little bit about it in a second. But the reason I wanted to bring this question to the table is because I think you could take 2 QBs here, and that would be pretty interesting, right? So go ahead and weigh in on what you think you would do here, and just assume you're taking Kyle Pitts at the 106.
I guess my first question is, does he have to take? I guess he's saying he wants to take Kyle Pitts at the 106. So I guess it does fall into. I guess it would make some sense that this would be tight end premium. At least I'm guessing.
Yeah, I forgot to ask, but I think it's a safe guess. Yep.
Okay. All right. If that's the case, then all right, I can buy it. So we're talking about taking like Lawrence and Fields essentially at the 102, 104.
Well, no, probably not. So I'll pull that up in a second, but you're only going to get one of Lawrence. Well, Lawrence is 101. Let's just X him out.
Lawrence or Fields is what I meant to say. Sorry.
Yes, or Fields. You're not going to get them both, but I would expect him to take Fields at the 102.
Okay. I think that's fair. But then at the 104, see, for me, I would still be looking at running back and or wide receiver. Probably be focusing on running back. At least that's my personal preference. But it goes back to something that we had discussed actually during the last mailbag show, is that when you're like during the draft, do you focus on the value-based proposition of like, is this the best player available? So if you try and remove core position, if you try and remove the idea that you're going to be drafting for need at that point, I guess what is your focus? At least for me, I'd be looking at snagging a quarterback like at the 102. So this past year it was Joe Burrow, CEH, Jonathan Taylor somewhere at the front. So focusing on quarterback, running back at the beginning of the draft, and with the 102, 104, I think that's where my focus would be there. The 111, a little bit more of a toss up. I think that's where you can start to focus on what your roster needs are. Might take a swing at a wide receiver there. And see what happens. But I think at the 102, 104 position, I'd be focusing on quarterback, running back.
So my take is that the 102 and the 104 guarantees that you're going to get a quality quarterback at 102. It's going to be Justin Fields. I mean, I would venture to say that 100% of drafts are going to take Trevor Lawrence 101. So it's going to be Justin Fields at the 102. But you're going to guarantee either Travis Etienne or Najee Harris with the 104. So that's incredible. I mean, yeah, that's incredible. So you're going to get a quarterback that's likely going to be playing immediately and a running back that's likely going to be playing immediately. I don't know that I'd be taking Kyle Pitts at 106. The reason I don't know that I'd be taking him is because you could then get one of DeVonta Smith and Jamar Chase. So you would start Fields at one of Harris or Etienne, and then one of DeVonta Smith or Jamar Chase. That is just absolutely incredible. So, I mean, if it's tight end premium, maybe consider Kyle Pitts. I might trade down a couple, but Kyle Pitts is going to be a really hot name. And then 111, I said it's tough right now, but I recommended either Bateman or Rondell Moore. If one of them falls, probably more likely Bateman, but I like both of them a lot. So it's an interesting group of picks because it really falls perfectly into where you can get elite players at the 3 top positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. And essentially, I mean, if you do take Pitts at 6, you could still Bateman or Moore both have quote unquote elite potential too. So you could still end up with an elite player at literally every position.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering like why he had to take Pitts at 106, because I would rather look at like one of the wide receivers there at 106 if at all possible, or see if a running back were to slip something along those lines.
So that's the thing. If it were the 107, then sure, take him. Fine. You know,
Yeah.
take Kyle Pitts 107, that's perfect. But the 106 guarantees you either DeVonta Smith or Jamar Chase or ETN, I guess, if the running backs don't go first. So you know what I mean? Or trade back to the 107 and see if you can acquire a little bit of something.
Yeah, and this is something I would want to take a look at a bit more. But I mean, when it comes to drafting like tight ends in Dynasty, I mean, what is that? That's just a general question that I want to throw out there. But I mean, what's that hit rate on first round tight ends being drafting at that point? I just can't.
Sure the hit rate's good eventually. It's just
but year 1, year 2, I mean,
yeah.
So unless we're talking like, because when was Goddard drafted, or not when? Where was Goddard drafted?
I think second. I think second.
I thought it was the second round. So I'm just wondering if like what the value proposition or opportunity cost associated with drafting Pitts that high, even if it is tight end premium. I mean, at that point, I mean, if you're focused on grabbing, if he's focused on grabbing Pitts because he thinks the rest of his league wants to draft Pitts at that range, then I would wind up trading back then.
Yeah, I would too. But nobody's gonna. And I don't think he will either. I don't think anyone's going to click on Kyle Pitts with Jamar Chase and DeVonta Smith available.
Yeah,
that's just me. I don't think that anyone's going to, even a tight end premium. But here's the real point that I want to make on taking tight ends at premium draft picks like the 106, especially in SuperFlex. It's that you'll almost certainly have a cheaper buying opportunity before that player hits. You can look at TJ Hawkinson. You can look at Noah Fant. You could have bought them in the past year or so between the draft and now for cheaper than what they were drafted at, almost certainly in every league. You would have had to have been working diligently to time that. But if you kind of think about it as stocks, their stock has definitely fallen lower than where they were drafted in tight end premium. Almost across the board in almost every league, they would have been cheaper than Fant was like the 112, I want to say. Yeah. But Hawkinson was going in that 107-ish range in Superflex. So it's like you probably could have got them for less than a first, I would think, at some point. Maybe somewhere around a first value, but a player, maybe like an aging player. So you could have acquired them. So I just never end up drafting those high-profile rookie tight ends just because I'll get them for cheaper later, and I think that you can find the value elsewhere. I mean, you could have made it to the championship with Jimmy Graham this year, so it's like,
yeah, which is probably frustrating as all get out for some folks, but yeah, I get it, and that's what I was gonna. That's another point that I was gonna bring up. Now, thinking back to some of the tight ends that have been drafted even over the last like 4 to 5 years, I mean, who's really like either retained or increased their value like over that time span?
Right. So
I really can't think of one. I mean, other than possibly,
Mark Andrews.
Yeah, Mark Andrews. That would probably be the only one that I can think of.
That's almost
Fant. Yeah, Fant to some degree, but I mean, all the rest of them, they've probably fallen off. I mean, not significantly, but enough that I mean, you don't have to really stretch in terms of making a trade offer in order to acquire them at this point.
Right, and Andrews was a 3rd-round pick, and obviously the second tight end taken in that draft by his team. Yeah. So incredible that the Ravens did that. But anyway, so he wasn't even that expensive to acquire in rookie drafts, to be quite honest. So that's not even a viable example. But he has held value at least. Obviously, Kelsey's held value, Kittle's held value. But
I was going to say like Irv Smith.
Yeah, but it's not a high value anyways. I mean, outside of Mark Andrews, like outside of the top 4, it's been just a carousel constantly. So why do you want to pay a premium to be part of the carousel? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm scrolling back through. Well, actually, let's go ahead. Let's do what we normally do. Let's let folks into our minds like real quick. It just I mean y'all look at this. I mean these are going back over like the last few years. I mean these are the tight ends that have been drafted. I mean who's really exceeded their value like in that time frame. I mean or held value. I mean Gesicki, okay, maybe. Probably fallen off though. Goddard
was expensive to to draft, though. The
Yeah.
only one that really you've profited on so far is Mark Andrews, and that
Yep.
was just that.
Oh man, Hayden Thomas.
There was no way he should have been drafted in the 3rd round by the Ravens, and there was no way that Hayden Hurst should have been drafted first. So,
Yeah, I mean, any of these guys, OJ Howard, I almost completely forgot he was a player in the league this year.
Evan Ingram's values tanked. Should have been incredible.
Njoku. I mean, this is going back now. I mean, so going back 3 seasons. Let's go back 1 more year, and let's look at tight ends. And okay, none.
Okay, well, we can look at 15 if you.
Yeah, we'll go back since we had it there to 2015. Let's take a look at it. See what we got. Maybe not. Okay, nothing there.
Nothing back for that range.
Yeah, maybe if I go to September, let's see what we got.
Here we go.
Tight end. Oh yeah, that was when Evan Ingram was drafted.
Right.
So, but still, I mean, who are these guys that are now just the guys that we thought when they were coming in as rookies, they were going to be like that next Kelsey, or even after Kittle was drafted, who's going to be that next Kittle, who's going to be that next elite tight end that we can get our hands on. And it's kind of okay if the answer is nobody. We don't have to continue to reach in order to pick up that guy.
That must mean start taking more shots on cheaper guys. I'm not going to use. I don't think Tanyan can be an example because he was out of nowhere.
Man, I'm still mad at you about Robert Tonyan, so I didn't want to hear about Robert Tonyan.
but then you have let's just pretend Sternberger did what Tanyan did. Like, he was a good stash. He was good. Mm-hmm. He was very cheap and he had opportunity.
God, I forgot about Chase Sternberger too.
Yeah, I'm just saying you could. I've tended to have guys like Jimmy Graham on my roster for way too long, Greg Olsen type players on my roster for way too long, and then I just take shots on Jared Cook, and then I just take shots on guys like Sternberger or something, and hopefully one of them ends up hitting, because as we see, like, Kyle Pitts would be an incredible player, I'm sure. I think he's going to be fantastic, but the point is he's either probably going to meet his value or lose value immediately. Mm-hmm. So why would when you're drafting on a rookie draft, you want that player to increase value?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking what player is going to increase value in training camp, because then you might get a quick flip on a player. So that tight end's not going to increase value in training camp. They're probably not going to increase value their first year. They're going to have 3 touchdowns and 590 yards, and that's fine. But you're not getting better than Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is going to come out here and break Justin Jefferson's rookie receiving record or something, and you're just stuck holding the bag.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, and your only hope is going to be like, all right, so in 2 years, it's going to be, Kyle Pitts is going to hit. It's going to be the same thing that we're hoping for, like Adam Troutman and like all the rest of those like rookie tight ends that we were so excited about this past season. Even though I can't really hate on Adam Troutman since he's from Dayton, but still.
Oh my goodness, I'll never forget the donut from Adam Troutman and cash.
Yeah, I'm still mad about that too. But that's my point. I mean, when it comes to the tight end position, I mean, when we're seeing guys like after the end of the season, if we're seeing guys like Dawson Knox getting propped up as a guy that we should trade for in order to like pick up on our dynasty rosters, then the opportunity cost associated with grabbing a tight end in the first round it's not hitting for me.
Right,
it doesn't.
Let's bring some of these comments in. Kyle Bannon, what's up, man? I totally agree with buying a tight end after year 1, but Pitts is the best tight end prospect I've ever seen, and it's not really close. I kind of agree with you.
See, that's going to make me – I need to watch some film on Kyle Pitts then. Let me go talk with our man, Mr. Garvin, and see what he thinks about Mr.
He's
Pitts.
Incredible, but the problem is the cards are stacked against you. I'm sorry. I mean, I thought T.J. Hockenson was incredible, and he is. Honestly, he's fine in the NFL. And Noah Fant's incredible, and he's fine in the NFL. And they're both probably going to be great. They'll probably be the best next top 5 tight ends. But it's you could have bought them. You could have bought them between the rookie draft and when they hit that value, you could have bought them, and you would still have Jamar Chase, or you could make a profit. Even take Jamar Chase or DeVonta Smith, trade them
for the season.
after a season and let them add to their side.
Yeah. So that's just it. To me, that's difficult in order to try and like justify taking them when you know that the prospects that are going in that same range at other positions are going to produce. Like the running backs and wide receivers, unless something catastrophic happens, I mean, those guys are going to produce. I mean, even though we drafted Cam Akers, it took a while, but we see like where his trajectory is headed. I mean, and like these stocks that are going on right now, he's going to the moon. But I mean, there's a possibility that those guys can wind up making value, and we see that path. But for tight ends, shoot, man, I just don't know.
Did you have to squeeze in Cam Akers because of the comment I brought up?
Yeah.
Our buddy D-Bro loves Cam Akers. Said, don't draft rookie tight ends, just saying.
So I'm reading the room, man. I'm reading the room. I see D-Bro in here. I got to talk about Cam Akers.
So here's my thing. Just lease him. That's what it is. Yeah. I'm not drafting Kyle Pitts. I'm leasing him. So if I've got that 106, I'm like, all right, I'm saying Kyle Pitts is my tight end. I'm going to lease him to somebody else for a year or a year and a half.
Absolutely.
I'll get Jamar Chase break this rookie record. I'll go sell him to the Kyle Pitts owner and get a whole bunch extra.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, that's an easier process than drafting him when we know how long it can typically take for a tight end to adjust to the NFL schemes that they're going to be put into, and then just say, all right, well, I'm playing the long game with them. Where with Dynasty, I mean, sure, I mean that's part of the point, but we also want that production now. We want to be able to try and win now.
Right.
So unless you're already loaded at tight end, unless you're sitting on Kelsey, you're sitting on, I mean, Hawk to a certain extent, Kittle. I mean, one of those guys that we know at least have a chance at 4, 5, 6 targets and a touchdown. Then I can't buy into that.
Right, and it's not binary. You can't always just do what I said. You can't just lease a player all the time, and that owner's going to want to trade them. And maybe Kyle Pitts just comes out and breaks the whole tight end model. But the point is, if he does, you also have an equal chance that Jamar Chase breaks the wide receiver model. You have an equal chance that DeVonta Smith or Travis Etienne and Najee Harris break their model. So it's like maybe, but it's not plus even to draft Kyle Pitts over the top 6 players in SuperFlex rookie drafts because their ceilings are just so incredible, and tight end just happens to be the position where the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's that simple.
Let's pull this up real quick. We forgot to include it just to kind of see where DLF rankers are at right now with rookie SuperFlex. So it's pretty much exactly what we were saying. It looks like the 6 would end up being DeVonta Smith. Jamar Chase is actually going at 4. This is actually different between the 1 QB and the 2 QB. Jamar Chase is actually the one at 1 in single QB. So that's a little flip-flop in the rankings. And then so you're going to get probably Etienne or DeVonta Smith. It's just, I don't know.
To me, that's still fire. I mean, whichever way that you spin it.
Yep. And then it looks like you could even get Trey Lance a little later. You could even play games and get Trey Lance at the 111 if you wanted to. So, or Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones might rise a little, but
I think Jones is going to wind up picking up like throughout the draft process.
Me too. Yeah. He's going to gain steam. People are really going to like his film. Yeah. All right, so we've got one more to argue about before we get out of here because I know that we kind of disagree on this one.
I'm not saying I completely disagree. Well, let's go. I mean, go ahead and
sure. Yeah. Okay, so same person. He made this trade, and I thought it was incredibly interesting, so I wanted to bring it on the show. Still not sure what side I land on. So Jalen Hurts, the 112 and the 212 for 2 2022 firsts and the 206. So he upgraded his second and basically traded the last first-round pick in Jalen Hurts for 2 random firsts next year. I'll let you get first. What are you thinking?
I still side with Jalen Hurts, the Jalen Hurts side of things. I mean, for me, since we're just kind of breaking down like what we could possibly get at the back end of the first round, you're holding on to a dual threat quarterback who, at least in my eyes, wound up outperforming his counterpart in Carson Wentz this past season. Regardless of what the coaching staff and how that all shakes out, I think if there's even a hint of that we're going to have like an open quarterback competition in the same way that the Rams have basically come out and said that that's kind of how they want to approach their quarterback position in 2021 because they're stuck with Jared Goff. I mean, I think that Jalen Hurts is going to wind up at least I think he has the inside track to being their starting quarterback. But regardless, for me, the value to me lies in Jalen Hurts. I mean, we've already seen what his upside is within within that organization. And I mean, bad press conference or not, I mean, I still think that their head coach has the skills to actually install a decent offense for the Eagles. So I'm still a believer in Sirianni. Just he's not a good public speaker, and that's okay.
Yeah, I suppose.
But still, I mean, I still side with Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think they're if I'm not mistaken, I mean, Eagles passing offense rose from the 28th to 20th in EPA per play. Like once they flipped from Hurts to Carson Wentz, was at week 13 or something like that. So down the stretch. So and while we when we focus on Hurts as a runner, I mean, he was still a legitimately better passer than Carson Wentz. Small sample, I will agree. But with, I mean, similar weapons to what Carson Wentz had, and arguably a worse offensive line, since they had at that point 3 starters on their offensive IR.
I think it was the same offensive line.
I thought they had at least one more out at that point.
We can look into it. I thought that they had 3 injured with Wentz's last game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it was about that week 11, week 12-ish, I think, when like Lane Johnson and like most of the other guys, I think, were falling off. But either way,
I just remember because that was the argument for Wentz. So how can you judge it? Okay, how can you judge them with 3 linemen out? Well, okay, they've been injured all year for starters and for finishers. Same linemen are out with Jalen Hurts, and you're getting better production.
Yep.
That's how the scientific method works, my dude. I don't know what to tell you. So let me pull up what the trade analyzer says first. Let's go ahead and pump out this tool because I think it's incredible. It's one of my favorites that is out there. You can't use it verbatim. Let me go ahead and pull that banner off. You can't use it. You know, it's not the Bible out here, but it helps for sure. And it's got the trade pretty close. And that's almost where I'm at. It's pretty close. So it depends how risk adverse you are because you're taking a risk. If you keep Jalen Hurts, you're taking a risk. If you trade him for a first round pick, which is essentially what you're doing here, you are taking a risk. But here's my thing. I think, and a lot of credible people believe similar, Doug Peterson wanted to keep Jalen Hurts. Forget the Nate Sudfeld thing. That was just weird, but I don't think that was indicative of Doug Peterson's opinion on Jalen Hurts. I feel strongly that Doug Peterson wanted to install Jalen Hurts into the 2022-2021 offense, and he was going to be the starter going forward because he felt that Jalen Hurts gave their team the best chance to win. Howie Roseman, I feel, owes Wentz. Well, like you said, the owner owes him, but the GM made the deal. Owes Wentz a lot of money, and I think they want to salvage Carson Wentz. In fairness, he's still probably like a top 20 quarterback, honestly. So he had a terrible year, but I do think maybe he could be salvaged. Baker had a terrible year. He came back and did pretty well this year. So I think that it's still possible that Wentz does okay. But the point of the conversation is that I do not think that Hurts plays again for the next couple years with this Carson Wentz contract that they cannot get out of. They can't trade. The only thing they could do is something like I mentioned earlier, like Brock Osweiler. They can pay some of his contract to get him out there, but they're probably not going to, and they owe him a lot more money. So I understand, and you understand that Jalen Hurts is probably the better option for them given where the league's going. It's not that Carson Wentz isn't mobile, but
he sucks.
But yes, Jalen Hurts just – I don't even want to say more mobile. He just seemed better. He just seemed to be a better fit. Whatever. He seemed better, like a better quarterback. So what I am saying is that I don't think that the difference is big enough for an NFL franchise to bite the bullet. They just don't do that very often.
Well, and also it was just 4 starts, right? I mean, it was 4 starts, but then he didn't even wind up finishing that last game because Peterson pulled the rug from under him. So I mean, I get that, and I think that's where your point about how risk averse you are is that's the critical piece to it. Because if you've got stars in your eyes after watching Jalen Hurts, and you believe that he can wind up taking over that job, if not, straight out the gate in 2021, but as soon as Carson Wentz starts to fail, they put in Jalen Hurts, then okay. Now we're talking.
Great. Yeah,
But,
you did well.
yeah, then all right, then now we're talking. But if the scenario that you laid out, where I mean they're stuck with Wentz, there's nothing they can do about it, and Hurts has to sit behind while Wentz goes out there and does whatever he does, then yes, then you've lost value, and then that those 2022 firsts look much more attractive at that point, because you know that you're getting a player that will at least have a chance to see the field versus being stuck behind somebody else.
Right, and if you break it down, so you upgraded your second. Okay, good. I mean, in my opinion, when I look at this trade, upgrading your second is almost your compensation for taking the risk, because it's only 6 spots, but actually the end of the second, there's actually a pretty significant difference from the top half of the, in my opinion. So you upgraded there, and that's almost your compensation for taking the risk. You've got the 112 there, so you have an 11 and 12 chance of upgrading your pick next year. That's just how math works. Unless the other person wins the championship next year, you're going to have a better pick. That's great. So now you're looking at Jalen Hurts for a random 2021 first. Okay, well, the thing here is if it's a late first, you probably took a loss no matter what. That's just, even if Jalen Hurts sits for a year and a half and becomes a starter of the Philadelphia Eagles, you probably took a loss. However, let's just pretend it's this year, because I'm not going to speculate a whole year. We already have to speculate 1 year. If that pick ends up being a top 6 pick, like we just discussed, now you're talking about an elite tier player. Even top 7, we can bring in Kyle Pitts since we just talked about him. You're bringing in an elite tier player, and if Jalen Hurts does hit, it doesn't hurt so bad. You know, if you ended up getting a top half player, so that's where the risk comes in here.
Right.
I think if you just don't want to deal with the Eagles situation at all, I think you hit pretty good value here. You hit fair value to change your team situation. You don't have to feel uneasy about your dynasty roster. If something makes you feel uneasy, you can go out, you can pivot. That's what I would call this. It's a pivot. I don't think that either team made themselves significantly better. I think they're both kind of rebuilding type trades anyways. No one's winning right now because of this trade. So that's my opinion here. If you're just uneasy with the Eagles situation, I think this was a smart trade for both teams, because if the other team felt confident about the Eagles situation, says, no, I know that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback. I hear all the reports like you told me about today that Carson Wentz has some work ethic problems. I know Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy. That's a good trade for him then, you know?
Right. Because who knows? I mean, like I said, the moment he starts taking, 2 to 3 sacks per game, throwing an interception, having a fumble here and there, I mean, there's going to be like a ton of calls for Hurts to be out there on the field. And who's to say that Sirianni, in his first season as the head coach, winds up bowing to the pressure and then bringing Hurts in?
But you have to think he didn't come to head coach this team without knowing what quarterback he's getting. I mean, he's the first-time head coach, so maybe he did just take the job. But
well, yeah, he probably just took the bag, and it was just like, here, they dangled the contract in front of him, and it was like, cool.
Yeah, I guess you could say he might have just took whatever opportunity he got, but also it's really uncommon for a head coach to come into a messy quarterback situation. I feel like the decision has probably been made, at least to start the year. Now, the conversation may have been had, hey, I know what happened to you and Doug Peterson. I'm not stupid. If Carson Wentz does X, Y, and Z, I'm putting Hurts in. Is that okay? And, maybe that conversation was had, but that's just speculation here.
Yeah. And I mean, well, and I don't know, because I mean, who the Texans head coach, that Dave Colley, I guess is how you pronounce his name or whatever. But I mean, did he accept the job for the Texans? I mean, knowing what he knows about Deshaun Watson, I mean, he had to know, like, up front, that there was some quarterback controversy already with that squad. So it's possible that head coaches wind up taking the position, but it's just trying to think not just in that first year, like when things are probably going to be the most chaotic. It's just trying to take a long view approach to how they can develop the team.
Right.
So I mean, but I don't know. But back to your point, if you want to avoid the risk and don't want to deal with it, then you take those 2022 first, and then you just avoid it completely. And you're just like, whatever happens to Jalen Hurts, if he succeeds, cool. But either way, I've got 2 extra first round picks. So
right. So Let's bring it. So Kyle Bannon said, I feel like having to sit on those picks for another year makes them more like second round value. So no way I'm taking that deal. I see where you're coming from, but that's just not how it works because the question is opportunity cost. That's all we care about is opportunity cost. What opportunity cost did I have on this trade? Well, like I said, if they could be win now teams, but neither team is winning because of this trade. So both of them are looking to their futures. The point you're trying to make is that if you keep Hurts and you keep your 112, you have picks now. They're still going to be first next year. And if you weren't going to win games, you'd actually rather lose games. So that's why I disagree with – I know a lot of people think like that, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. I disagree because if I'm not going to win the championship, I don't want to win games. And if I'm making a trade like this, I probably have to plan for my future. So give me the 2020 first. And if Jalen Hurts does crush, it's probably you are taking a loss, but you're not scoring those points. So, I want to lose all my games if I'm not going to, and by per league rules, of course, I'm not going to cheat. But if I need to trade players away, whatever, I'm doing it. I'm not going to be in the middle. So if the opportunity cost is that I have to push off to 2022 and then I'm going to get assets that I can use now in like rookie running backs, yeah, I'm going to prefer that than what happens if you kept Jalen Hurts and he doesn't play for 2 years. Well, then that was like having a second, So I get the way of thinking, but I still think pushing off to those 2022 first and having the chance to, people all the time end up with the 101 because they traded for 2 years ahead. Really, really smart people love trading for 2 years ahead.
Last point, and I think, and Derek, and I was actually trying to look this up like while you were talking. So their quarterback coach, like Brian Johnson, he played or he knows Jalen Hurts' dad.
Yeah.
So
okay, well that changes everything.
I'm not saying it changed everything, but it's interesting that there's a connection that's already made between the incoming staff and Jalen Hurts. Might not mean anything.
No, I think it does matter a little.
I'm gonna say since Derek agrees with me, I'm saying Derek agrees with me. I'm gonna put words in his mouth since he can't talk right now. And since he brought this up, so that means Jalen Hurts is going to be the 2021 starter for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what this means. That's what I'm taking this as. And I know now that I'm going to ride this until basically I'm just going to delete this show from YouTube, so nobody will have any record of it.
So here's my thing. Isn't it just awkward if this guy comes in and does know Jalen Hurts really, really well and like he's not starting?
I guess he came out and said that he's known Jalen since he was 4. He's known his dad. He tried to recruit Jalen. To let's see, because he was a coach at Mississippi State and tried to recruit Hurts to Mississippi State before he chose to go to Alabama.
Is this dude saying he started scouting him on the flag football team?
Heck yeah, I'm all in. I am sold. Jalen Hurts is going to be the 2021 quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's already written in stone, man. And if not, then go talk to Derek Brown.
Well, it'll be on my chalkboard behind me the whole time, so hopefully they do free Jalen. All right. Do you have anything else for today?
No, I think that's it. Y'all, it's going to be a wild week this next week. We're already hearing rumors about where Matt Stafford is going to land. What was it? There was that Versus show with DeAndre Hopkins and Jalen Ramsey on it, and apparently they already, I think Ramsey already said he knew where Deshaun Watson is going to wind up. So rumors about where Watson's going to go.
The Rams?
I don't even want to get into it.
What if they paid 2 quarterbacks $100 million?
That would be too wild. It would probably work if Bill O'Brien was still there, and he would probably trade for Jared Goff, but not anymore. But either way, there's going to be the news cycle is going to be, huge over this next week between incoming prospects, current free agents or upcoming free agents, and then of course we got the Super Bowl coming next Sunday. With all that news, hopefully we'll be able to get back in and talk with y'all again. But for the time being, drop a comment in the for the video like that's here on YouTube. Come find us on Twitter. Ask us some more questions so we can generate some of the topics that you find interesting. Because we love to you can see how we like to banter back and forth between each other, but we want to find out what's important to you. Mm-hmm. So come find us. Shoot me a DM, shoot Adam a DM, drop us a tweet at us or whatever, and we'd be happy to answer your questions during the next show, which we should be coming on a regular basis here every Thursday or Friday here over the off season. So, you got anything else, Adam?
Nope. Good to go.
Nope. All right. So for Adam, I'm Chris Allen. Thank y'all for coming in and hanging out with us this evening on a lovely Friday night. Everybody be safe, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Peace.